Okay. So Dr. Breu needs really no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyways. Um, he is an assistant professor of medicine and director of resident education at the VA Boston, which is affiliated with BI. He's also a giant in the medical education space. You may know him from his many infamous tutorials. You may also know him from his podcast, The Curious Clinician, which taught me why Lasix improves dyspnea before you actually have any urine output. His tutorial boot camp last year was extremely well received, and we are really thrilled to have him back here again. Welcome, Dr. Breu.
Thank you for having me. So what we're going to do this evening is actually talk a lot less about constructing tutorials, what goes into a tutorial. We'll do a little bit of that, but I think this session is more valuable as an opportunity for me to go over with you how I research a tutorial, because that's something that, the 10, 15 of you may never end up writing a tutorial in your life. You're going to do research. You're going to put together talks. You may end up creating other forms of medical education that aren't on Twitter or aren't podcasts, aren't YouTube videos. Even if you don't do that, you're still going to have to be facile with navigating the answering of clinical questions, finding research papers, going down rabbit holes. And having done this now for 6 years, I have found that I can only be successful if I have a method. And so my main goal is to share with you my method. So let me share my screen because I think, Rachel, if you can enable Shane's screen sharing, that would be wonderful. While we're waiting for that, what I'm going to do is share in the chat a link to a document that kind of covers most of what we're going to go over tonight. And you can follow along as we go through some or all of this. All right, so no, okay. So Rachel, thumbs up that you can see a document that starts tools I use. Okay, great. So we're going to go over not all of these tools, but I'm going to talk in some fashion about most of these tools. And then at the bottom, independent of me, I'll let you review these items down here. Before we get into these tools, which again are meant to be a way of conveying how I research and how I write tutorials, Substack posts, podcast episodes, whatever, the whole kit and caboodle. Let me just spend a very brief moment reviewing for those of you who either have never sort of been big Twitter folks or who are, but have never really gotten into the whole tutorial business. Let me just do like a 2 to 3 minute high level session on, what that constitutes. And then throw into the chat questions you may have about how I construct a tutorial. If you have questions about like timing, when should somebody post, what's the right length, all that kind of stuff. Because I'm happy to answer any of those questions, but understanding that not everyone in this audience is going to sort of be in the business of writing these. I don't want to spend all my time there. But with that preface, this is an example of one that I wrote now a couple years ago, and I'm showing it to you because it relates to something called heart failure, which I think all of you are either intimately comfortable with or will soon be infinitely comfortable with. And this is an example of one that begins with a question. Most of the ones that I write begin with a question. And there's, a nomenclature that many people use where they indicate the number of tweets. And I'll offer that I like doing that because it lets the reader know, all right, how much of an investment do I have to offer here? Is this like 4 tweets? Is this 18 tweets? Is this 50? People don't really write 50 anymore. And you'll notice that the timestamp for all of them is exactly the same. You can't see it here, but there it is, 4:57. And that's because no matter what tool you use, you want to ensure that if you're going to engage in this kind of endeavor, you post all the tweets simultaneously, unless there's a specific educational reason not to. There are a few things more frustrating than reading a book and getting to the last chapter and finding out that the last chapter actually wasn't published. And so don't ever do that to your audience. Make sure that you tell a complete story right from the beginning. And you'll notice as you go through, and I'll actually make this point up front, that there's a decent number of views. I'll show you here. Sorry, I did do it a different way. I want to make the point about, okay, so view post engagements. Shoot, sorry. Okay, analytics. So you'll notice here, the pop-up, Rachel, you're seeing like a pop-up where this says post analytics. Okay. So you can see that this first tweet got, a decent number of impressions. And impressions, as you guys probably know, are just people who basically scrolled past it. They may not have read it. They may not have like mentally acknowledged it existed, but it passed somebody's screen. But if you come down to this next tweet and you view post and analytics, you'll find an enormous drop-off, right? So over 350,000. This is literally the second tweet, and we're already down to 15,000. So be very cautious in ever making an assumption about how many people are reading one of these by how much of an engagement someone is getting in the first tweet. On average, you'll get about 5 to 10% of people will read the second tweet. And it'll only go down from there, as you can imagine, right? If we get to tweet 9, I'll be lucky if this is over 10,000, right? So, and I'm not lucky, right? So 7,000 people out of 350,000. This is not a demonstration of the fact that I don't know how to write a good tutorial. I mean, it may be a demonstration of that, but I think it's more a demonstration of the way that people consume these things, right? And then if we come down to the end, historically, before Elon Musk bought Twitter, they would have an interesting thing where the second to last and the last tweet would be viewed at the same time as the first tweet. And so you would typically see a little bit of a bump up at the end. In this case, this is the second to last, and here's the last. And so these two should be higher than that 7,000 nadir. And you can see that at least the second to last one is. So the key things for you guys to know, very, very high level, tutorials are posted at the same time, typically a single topic. Obviously, like any tweet, they can contain things like graphics, hyperlinks, videos. You can obviously put people in here like James Fang, who I was really hoping would engage with this. I couldn't get a bite. I really, really wanted it. He is really one of the pioneers in this topic. And I think for you, if you ever do dip your toe into this, recognize that if you're going to evaluate the efficacy, don't ever use the first tweet. That is highly misleading. Like you look at this and I pat myself on the back. Wow, I'm really great at this. But it went from 350,000 to probably at its lowest value, about 5,000. So at most, I had about 5,000 people who read the whole thing. I still feel really good about that because I've never, maybe I've given 4 lectures in my life that have had 5,000 people in it. Some people will never give a lecture with 5,000 people in it. So if you can give a tutorial lecture with 5,000 people in it, hooray. I mean, that's an enormous educational endeavor, and that's something I'm proud of. But it ain't 350,000. So again, drop questions about tutorials that you want me to answer. But I want to talk for the remainder of my time about the method. And I want to sort of identify that you got to begin with an easy way to ask the question and kind of start your journey. And so I'm going to demonstrate that. And I'm going to demonstrate that using open evidence. And so can we maybe just have people using Zoom just raise their hands if they currently use open evidence? I just want to get a sense. Oh, raise your hands using the Zoom thingy a bit bigger. Let me this up. Okay, so Rachel, how many people have raised their hand? I'm having a hard time seeing that.
I see 0 hand raising.
Okay. If you do use it and you can't figure out how to raise your hand, just drop it in the chat. Okay. If you're not using this, you must immediately begin to use it. I thought Adam would have talked about this at the first session you guys had with him, because it's a form of large language models, but this one, I'll show you GPT in a second as an opportunity, as a way to sort of answer questions, but this is far superior. It's free. So I indicate here the cost to you, and everything that I'm going to show you, like the most important things you can do for free. I spend about, I don't know, 75 to $100 a month on apps, because like this is part of my educational mission. You guys can all do this for free. And I'm going to concentrate not exclusively on free things, but make a point of showing them. So anyway, if you have an NPI number, and you should, if the med students, you probably don't have one yet, but everyone else, you can get an account for free. So let me demonstrate. This week, I took care of a patient who had LVH on echocardiography, low voltage on his ECG, had a history of a monoclonal gammopathy, and heart failure. And so we're like, okay, this guy's got cardiac amyloid, right? This is like a no-brainer. So we got a cardiac MR, and there was no late gadolinium enhancement. And so the reading cardiologist, radiologist was like, boo for you, he doesn't have cardiac amyloid. So the question I then had is, what is the sensitivity of MRI, we'll call it cardiac MRI, for cardiac amyloidosis? If you spell things wrong, typically these things can figure it out. It'll then query not like Reddit, right, which GPT likes to hang out in, but instead things like, I don't know, PubMed. And it'll give you a pithy 2 to 3 paragraph answer. Here it's going to give you 4. It gives you references to journals that actually exist, unlike what GPT will sometimes do. It'll tell you if it's a leading journal, and I think we can all agree that JACC is a leading journal. And it'll give you, obviously, link outs. And so, I won't read this to you guys, but you can see that it's giving you some decent answer, right? 80% sensitivity, this one 86%, 85 to 90. And we'll sort of take the next step in a moment. Now, let's say you had a follow-up question, because I did. Is there, because our guy had, I thought, AL amyloidosis, and I felt like ATTR would be more sensitive on cardiac MR. So is there a difference in sensitivity between AL and ATTR cardiac amyloid? Because I really want to believe this guy still has amyloid, and we're going to get a fat pad biopsy, because even these sensitivities, they ain't 100%. So now it's coming back with a follow-up answer that, yes, in fact, it looks like there is a difference. And I think late gadolinium enhancement is highly sensitive for both. Sensitivity is generally higher for ATTR due to the more extensive and transmural nature of the LG in this subtype. Okay, so you maybe you're going to rounds, maybe you get a consult, maybe if you're still a medical student, you get asked something, a question by your attending, your resident. This is definitely one of the places to go as a starting point. But this isn't enough to write a tutorial. This isn't enough to make a podcast episode, put together a talk. So the work doesn't end here. So let me show you some additional things. So let's take this as an example, and we'll click on it. And obviously, it's going to open up PubMed. And you're going to notice as we go a couple things. So first, you'll notice here on the left this side view appear. And this gets to this idea of a PDF citation manager. And you'll notice that my choice is papers, ReadCube papers, and I pay $5 a month for this. I've literally tried every one of these: Mendeley, Zotero, PaperPile, EndNote. I've tried others. This one is the best. There's a lot of people who really love Zotero and Mendeley. I will tell you, Papers is the best one. And I'll sort of go over why that is in a moment. Actually, before I do that, I just want to come back over here very, very briefly and show you the answer that GPT had for the cardiac amyloid thing and kind of demonstrate why I think open evidence is better. A good answer, okay? But if you come down here, well, actually, let's come here. It searched 4 sites. The sites were Bing, MayoClinic.org, ClevelandClinic.org, and AppliedRadiology.com. So, like, lay public stuff, not PubMed. This is not giving you PubMed citations. And so you can see here, like, if I click on this, GPT is using as its resource this, which I don't find satisfactory compared to this. And if any of you who have used GPT at all, you have likely found that it isn't always reliable. The answers can't always be believed, and it has a tendency to confabulate references. You know, when I asked a follow-up question, it again gave me a decent answer, but I was, again, underwhelmed by the sources it was using and felt like I was much more enthusiastic about JACC, American Journal of Cardiology, JACC, and CIRC as my as the citations it was using. So I include it here, and I do in fact pay $20 a month for it because I use it for other things, not necessarily answering research questions. Although sometimes I will, because it'll offer insights that open evidence may not. But open evidence is what I undoubtedly lean on. Okay, but here we are. So we've opened up this article, and now what we want to do is we want to read it and start to like go down that rabbit hole a little bit. And so you'll notice that over here on my left panel, and this is again the Read Cube panel, it offers me the ability to view the PDF, and it's saying to me that it's available via open access, or I can add to library. So let's click on open PDF, and here we are, right? I'm viewing it in like basically a Read Cube viewer, okay? And you'll notice a few things. So first thing is, if I'm reading through this article, let's say I get to this this sentence here. However, the diagnosis by echocardiography has limitations, and I'm like intrigued by this, and I want to maybe put this in my talk about this topic or in my tutorial as a demonstration of why we need to use MR. If I hover over it, I can see, okay, here's an article from 1989. Well, let me try to find that one in a little bit, okay? I know I'm going to want that one. And maybe I want this one as well, or I want this one. But actually, let me see, maybe there's an easier way to quickly scan through these. So I'm going to come over here and just look at the references and just sort of look for some other ones that I might like. And all right, so I'm also going to want this one, okay? And while I'm at it, I realized I like this article, so I'm going to add it to my library. So it's going to end up in my library. And I come over here and I'm like, okay, this guy looks pretty good too. So it's offering me the option to do the PDF. Okay, this seems good. Let's add it to my library down here on the bottom right. And then this guy also available. These articles are making it easy for me. I'll have to show you examples where it's not so easy. And then, okay, I like this one too. And I'm going to add that. Let's find an article that's maybe going to be a little bit tougher. Because so far, the ones that I'm showing you, they've made it too easy on us. Now, even here, the PDF is available. I want one where the PDF, oh, maybe this 1986 one. Oh my gosh, we're getting lucky here. Let's try one more, and then we're going to have to go to a different article. Ah, here we go. Okay. So maybe I really want this one too. And I'm in here, and I'm like, okay. Let's look for PDF. I click PDF. Oh shit, this is too easy. I gotta find an example where this isn't the case. And this, I wanted to do this in some ways real time, but I'm gonna add this anyway. I'm gonna add this one to my library. And you could see I've been able to add things using this down here on the bottom right. I've been able to add things over here on the left. And oh, this one, oh, there we go. Now it's added. So I'm going to show you a couple different things that are important as you're looking through articles, but let's just very briefly come into what Papers looks like. And so here is what Papers looks like. And you can see, you know, I've downloaded over time over 16,000 articles. But I've just pulled in, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. And so I have this like smart folder where if something hasn't been tagged, it'll appear here. And so these are all those new articles. Okay. And so, you know, here I'm going to maybe create a tag for them and I don't know, I'll call it cardiac MR and amyloid. And then I can eventually add these 3 to that same tag. But I think the key thing I want you to recognize is if you notice here, all of them have this paperclip because now all of them, I have the PDF immediately. And I'm going to close all these windows, just to show you all of these PDFs are now available to me at any time. I don't have to download them 100 times, right? And in fact, they're available on my phone too, because this has an app. And so I can read the PDF anytime on my phone. And unsurprisingly, I can come in here and, you know, I can like highlight stuff, which is all great and good. But I want to find an example where maybe the PDF wasn't available because it wasn't open access, because I think that's really important. And I'll just sort of tool around and I'll add a couple of these articles to my library because, you know, why not? And you can see here, right, this one here, Klein, this is already in my library. And it knows that. It tells me that it's already in my library. I didn't have to click on it. We'll add this one, we'll add this one, and then we'll add this one. And then let's look at this article here for a moment. This one is from the European Journal of Nuclear Medicine. Okay. So I'm going to try to download the PDF. Man, you guys, I'm choosing articles that are accessible to everybody because I want to demonstrate one other key thing. Lancet's not open access. Let's just pretend it's not. So let's come into Lancet. Okay. So let's say for a moment, you find an article that isn't open access, all right? And you want to be able to get access to it. Now here, this one, it looks like I can tell you in a moment how it knows that I'm affiliated with Harvard, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. But let's say you wanted to get this article, and you didn't have immediate access to it. Well, I think I'm gonna use a different example. Let me use one other example. And Rachel, do me a favor. I noticed there was a question in the chat. If you can just unmute yourself as if or when questions come up and let me know, this is gonna be good.
So this question is asking if it is already in your library,
yes,
just add it anyways, or does it alert you that you already have a copy?
It will never download the same article twice. So, you know, this gets, for me, when I was a med student and a resident, what I would do is I would find an article, I would download it to like my computer in like a folder. And then, you know, 3 months later, I would download it a second time. And then 3 months after that, I would download it a third time. I download over and over and over again. Here, it will always know that you have that article. And even here, I'm on the New England Journal of Medicine website, and it will tell me over here if I have that article. And I don't need to come in and sort of somehow download it for the second, third, or fourth time. So here, let's go to the New England Journal. Let's just go to this most recent article edition. So this is an article published June 8th. And you'll notice that there's no PDF that's available anywhere. Okay, it's not giving me the option to download the PDF because I'm not logged in anywhere. The URL up here, you can notice, is a normal URL. Okay, and so I've gotten very lucky in this demo. Like every single article I've attempted to show you, there's been an open access article. Here, I don't have a subscription in the New England Journal, so I'm not going to be able to sign in. But my institution, Harvard, has a subscription. And so I want you to ask yourself the question, let's say you really wanted this article. I want you to sort of take 20 to 30 seconds in the chat. I want you to write 1 or 2 sentences describing how you would get access to the PDF of this article. What would be your method? You're here, right? You maybe get the table of contents sent to your email. You open this article and you want it. What would be your method for getting that PDF? So, drop in the chat. I'm curious to see what one or two people do. Okay, request it from the university. Okay. And I'll offer that every one of the institutions that you guys mentioned will have a subscription to the New England Journal. You can't be a medical school and not have access to the New England Journal. Okay. So Sci-Hub, if it's not the latest article, but this young is a new article, so Sci-Hub may not have it. And I have used Sci-Hub, but there are other methods. Now, for Access Journal, I might use Sci-Hub or ask a friend. Okay. Okay, so find university affiliation, log in, and try to download. Okay, so all of what I'm hearing is either you're going someplace else or you're like, whether that's Sci-Hub or, going through your institution. So let me offer a simpler method, and that's this button right here. Okay, and so this is well, what are these things called? These are extensions. Thank you. So this is an extension called Easy Proxy. And again, I have that listed under Library Backdoor Login. I use Easy Proxy. I've used Lean. Most universities will have Lean. Easy Proxy I have found to be far better. And so let's come back to that New England Journal paper. And I want you to observe the URL up here. I'm going to press this button. And then I suggest you have some sort of a password manager so you're not using the same password for everything. I use Dashlane, and so it's logging me into Harvard. And now, in about 5 seconds or so, the URL has changed. And you'll notice I'm not logged into the New England Journal-Medicine.org. I'm logged into it through Harvard, just by pressing that button. And guess what appeared? View PDF. That wasn't there a moment ago. And so now I can view the PDF and add this to my ReadCube. And this ability to very, very quickly get access to an article like this, it saves you so much time, saves me so much time, that it allows you to be far more facile with your upfront research. Because what I have a tendency to do is as I find a good article, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to look and I'm just going to be like, okay, this might be interesting, this might be interesting, this might be interesting. And I have a tendency to like download a whole lot to my library. And then now that I've got it, and you can see it has updated all those papers in here, now I can kind of decide like which ones do I want, which ones do I not need. And I'll offer, right, I downloaded this paper from the New England Journal, right? I clicked on this after I opened it with the Easy Proxy. Notice, by the way, that if I come into ReadCube, it has everything, all the metadata, the journal name, the year, the title, all the authors, the abstract. If I come over here, not only does it have the PDF, it's got all the supplements. It downloads for you automatically the supplements for the paper. So I can look at the 293 page protocol, right? That automatically gets sent with the paper. And I can now use this in however I want. And let's say, this I rarely use, but let's say I really am interested in more about the articles that Rohit Loompa has published. I can click on that, and here are some more articles. And I can start just adding more and more stuff. And yeah, maybe I'm adding way too much, but for me, part of the upfront is getting a cadre of articles that I may end up using. I may only read, ultimately, 5 to 10 of these. But if I need an article, what I do is I know where I can find it, and it's going to be here. Now, let's imagine you've got this article here, right? This is, we'll use this Circ article as an example. This is from 2003. You'll notice it doesn't have the paperclip, so it didn't automatically come with the PDF. If I click on Locate PDF, right, what you're noticing is it's attempting to find it down here on the bottom left, right? It's trying really hard to find that article for me so that I don't have to do the work. And oh, look at that. It found the PDF. All I had to do was press a button and boom, now I have this article too. Okay. So, I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but the key thing is if you have the ability to quickly and easily find articles, drop them into a library, and then do the forward and backward search, it becomes far more easy to research a topic, become expert on it quickly, put together a talk, go to rounds and sound smart, see a new consult, whatever it is. I'll just show you one more thing in terms of how you can sort of find articles using ReadCube. I've been showing you sort of the ability to use references, but this thing here is something called metrics. And what it does is it shows you the articles that have cited this one. So not backwards facing, what did this article cite, but forward facing. What articles have cited this one? And same thing, right? So this article is from, if we come down here, 2003, right? So not surprisingly, you can see there's one from 2023. And so this is a way to obviously say, okay, this is maybe an older article on the topic. Well, what the hell new has been written? And so, all right, I like this one and I like this one. Okay. And then I'm going to come in here and then they're going to end up popping up here. All right. So I've talked a lot about ReadCube, open evidence, and easy proxy. And I want to stop there for a moment and see what questions people have just about those tools. And make sure that if I went too fast through something, or people are uncertain about how something works, I take a moment to answer those questions, and then we'll talk about a few other things. So, but what questions do people have about just those tools? So Miriam's asking, so the answer to your question, Miriam, is it depends. So let's come back in here. And let me share my screen again. Okay. So let's say for example, so this was the protocol. So this here's my metrics. This article has been cited 845 times. Gosh, I only wish. So if I, for example, add this article here, BMC Cardiovascular Clinics article from 2024. Okay. So date added, it should be the most recent one. You'll see that this article came for free with the PDF. Boom, there it is. I knew that was going to be the case because that article already said view PDF. And so here, right, these articles where it's telling you I can view the PDF, these are going to be open access free articles. And so if I click add to library, I'm nearly always the article is going to come for free. Whereas for this one, right, it doesn't say that. So let me add that to the library, come back over here. And again, so here's the most recent one that I just added 5 seconds ago. That one didn't come with the PDF. So I can attempt to locate it and see, is ReadCube going to be able to find it on its own, or is it going to ask me to do work? You can see it's thinking, it's searching, it's trying. I can tell you it's going to give me a pop-up in a moment and ask me to go find it. And so I'll go through that demo if that's what ends up happening. So I'll come back to that. But let me look at these other questions. Does it work offline? Yeah, so you can highlight an article. Let's say you don't have access to Wi-Fi or something, and those highlights will appear when you ultimately get back onto like a Wi-Fi or something. Let me see here. So, okay, so download unsuccessful. So I'm going to view article page. Okay. And what I'm going to now try to do is like see if I press my button, because right now there was nothing. I should have actually, let me go back. Okay. So you'll notice there's no, I could purchase the PDF. It says I can access it through the VA, but there's no, PDF anywhere. All right. I won't be able to get it. So I have to click on my button, and it went from Science Direct to now Easy Proxy. And look at that. Lo and behold, View PDF appears. So it can work. Sometimes it's a little like clunky, but it works. Um, and the beautiful thing is like ReadCube is like kind of knows that all this is going on in the background, and will download that article for you. So let's say I click on import PDF. Okay, this article should now appear in a moment, and it already has. Now it's there, right? It knew from its metadata that that was the article. And so now I have it here, view PDF. There it is. So it is just like light years faster than the other methods. Now, I'm not going to argue that Sci-Hub isn't a good tool, but man, just like press a button. I think that's significantly easier. Is ReadCube automatically integrated into Chrome, or do you have to set it up that way? So if you go into ReadCube in like open up the URL and like create a page, you just need to have this ReadCube extension. Once you add the extension, everything that I've showed you essentially will happen. You also have to have the extension for Easy Proxy, which is free, and all it will ask you for is it'll ask you for your university's proxy. And so like I didn't know this. Like I just searched for Harvard to made it my active one, and that's all I had to do. And once you do that, you can press this button. Now, if for whatever reason you get this extension and in options, your university doesn't appear here. So let's try Tufts, right? Tufts is there. Okay. So Tufts will work. Mount Sinai. So maybe Sinai is in the, there it is, Mount Sinai, right? So I think nearly everything is going to be here. If not, you can try Lean, which I also have here as the other backdoor. I think Easy Proxy is a little bit more expansive and will have more universities, but Lean is another option. Okay, so let me see. What other questions did we have? I'm trying to use eProxy on the same paper as New England Journal, but I'm not getting it. So, and you're using your Ronaldo, can you, okay, you got this. Yeah, so you need to you need to have an active, university. So like I showed you, yeah, I had, Harvard University was my active Easy Proxy. You need to make yours active. You need to add it. And then you'll still have to log in to it once you press that button. But if you use something like Dashlane, one of these password programs, it's again just a press of a button instead of having to type it in each time. Let me know, Ronaldo, if you're still struggling with that.
Yeah, I think that our problem is our residents we don't have water Bitcoin.
You don't have a Easy Proxy?
University of Pittsburgh has it, but we don't have kind of a separate thing. The University of Pittsburgh and the University of Pittsburgh Metro Center residency, so we don't have actually the name of password for that.
Okay, so as residents? Okay. Yeah, so there you well, I'm not going to say you should, but you should. Like I feel like institutional libraries, every medical student and resident should have a username and password for an institutional library. If you don't, this is one of those things where I would talk to the library and say, I'm a student here. I need to have institutional access. How do I get a username and password? Because you should be able to log in, and you should be able to log in even without Easy Proxy. That ability should exist because again, you're a student or a resident of that university. Okay, there was another question about open access. If you ask a question to open evidence and there's no concrete answer evidence, will it make up an answer? No. So let's try to demo that, because I've definitely asked it a question and it's like, nice try, Breu. I don't have anything for that. So can I let's see, what is the evidence for the use of let's see, gin and tonics in the treatment of MRSA? I really hope it doesn't have a good answer for this. Okay. So this is what it should say, right? There's no evidence. Please use a drug like Vanco, Dapto, so forth. And then the reference provided discusses the synergistic effects of bicarbonate and the wall-teichoic acid inhibitor to cefuroxime, but it does not mention or support the use of gin and tonics for that purpose. So I have found that open evidence is far less prone to confabulation. Like, it doesn't have Korsakoffs, and it will actually give you answers that are true. And if it doesn't know the answer, it's going to tell you, like, I don't have an answer. And I felt like that was a pretty good one, right? It's trying to like give me something about like bicarbonate, but saying, hey, don't drink a gin and tonic if you've got, MRSA infection. Other questions about ReadCube, library backdoors, password managers. Let me see. Citation searching functions like Open Evidence GPD. Any questions about any other of those? Okay. As you come up with them, drop them in the chat. Let me just spend the final few minutes just mentioning a few other tools that I have found to be extremely valuable. Okay. So for me, I collect a lot of things. And so I use Evernote as my source for this. And so here is, for example, right? Here's a list of all the tutorials that I would like to write. I haven't written any of these, right? These are ones that I have on the back burner that I would like to write. And some of them I've started, right? So I'll like, that's not a good example. Let me see here. Okay. So PET for prostate cancer. I actually asked that question in open evidence, and it gave me a really good answer. So I was like, okay, this question is potentially worth exploring. And so I may end up sort of going down the road and trying to answer that one. But you can see here, like, for me, I feel like it's very, very important that I have a place to collect this. And, this is where I put, for example, I renewed my Massachusetts DEA today. All right. And so that's there. We last night recorded an episode, a couple weeks ago, recorded an episode for Curious Clinicians. And here's the YouTube chapters that I'm going to end up using when I post it tomorrow. And so, for me, I have found that this is worth the $11 a month. There are free versions. There's 1,000 different notes apps. If you don't already use one, I would suggest using one that's free for now until you realize, like, okay, this is something I'm going to use more and more and more. So I think a notes app is essential. I think some way to capture screenshots is essential. Now, there's like keystrokes that some people use. I like Nimbus, probably unnecessary because there are keystrokes, but this like is nice because you can select and scroll. So I can like select and then scroll down, it'll give me, or I can just like, take this and here, and now I can download that screenshot. And obviously for me, a lot of what I do is using pictures in the teaching that I do. So having a screenshot capture that I find to be very, very easy to use, strongly suggest Nimbus.
Sorry
There-
for interrupting. I don't think we could see the Evernote. It was probably a different screen, or maybe it's just me.
Oh yeah, okay. Let me. Oh, so all like when I was like showing you the shit. Okay, hold on. Let me come
Sorry,
back.
I just assumed that you were just referring to it.
No. Let me show you what I was talking about. So here's my Evernote, and so I was saying here's a list. These are all the things that I haven't written a tutorial about that I want to, right? So I can stay busy for another 15 years if I want to try to answer all these questions. And what I was saying is for this question, right? I asked, this is a question about why PET scans are not good tests for prostate cancer. Turns out they don't engage in the Warburg effect. So I asked Open Evidence this question to see, like, is there any juice there? And I got a great answer. So, oh shit, I bet you I'm not showing you Open Evidence. But Rachel, now you're seeing my
I'm seeing your Evernote.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, you can see there's a ton of stuff there. And then what I was offering is this is also where I put stuff like my DEA license number, pictures of it and stuff like that. Here's just a brief note for that I'm going to use when I'm putting the chapters together for the podcast episode that we're posting tomorrow. So Evernote I have found to be absolutely critical. If I didn't have this, I think I wouldn't know where to sort of capture all the ideas that you have. Because, the reality is as you go through the day, you're going to have an idea. And if you don't immediately write it down, you're going to forget it. And so for me, every time I have an idea that could be a tutorial, whether I'm sitting in morning report, talking to my wife at dinner, I make sure that I record it immediately because my brain will not remember it a half an hour later, much less a day later. So that's a really important tool, meaning some form of note function. I showed you Nimbus. I was going to offer that there's many, many, many good image editors. I'm sure there are many that are far better than PowerPoint. PowerPoint's just the one that I've used for 6 years as I've been writing tutorials, and so I'll offer that it's the one that I have found successful. But you can probably find something better. When you're writing tutorials, if you decide to, Twitter, writing them within Twitter is okay. The main drawback is that if I try to write one here, and let's say, I've got this and it's really good and I'm like having a great time, but I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta go to bed. I exit out and I can't save it. And man, that's annoying. And so what I have done is I've moved towards using what's called Cheer App. And so here I can, same idea. So why are the CardioNerds so awesome? And now let's say reason number 1, they are watching me type. Isn't that awesome? And then let's say as I'm doing this, I like this picture. So I'm going to drop this picture in. And then let's do one more tweet. Reason number 2, they haven't left Zoom. And let's drop another picture. This is me and my son playing chess. And so you can see over here on the right, like it's too big a picture. It's going to take forever. Let's do this one. This is like some penicillin thing. You can see here, it's like showing me what the tutorial will look like on the right. And, if you don't pay Elon Musk, it'll tell you when you've gone over and it'll turn it into a new tweet, right? You can see here, like, it's made a 4th and a 5th tweet because this had too many. And now it's saved, right? And I can come back to it later. And then whatever it is that I want to share on Twitter, it'll send it out for me immediately. And it'll even collect all the analytics. So I have moved towards writing or drafting my tutorials here. and usually posting them here, although not always for reasons that are not necessarily worth exploring with you guys. Okay. Can you access Evernote in hospital? Ronaldo's saying yes. I used to write whatever I learned from the day on rotations. Yes. Okay. Great. Okay. Beautiful. So I use Cheer app. I do use Twitter. I actually this should say, oh, here, this is the more accurate. I did start paying Elon Musk $3 a month, because that gives me the ability to bold-faced and italicize and to write slightly longer tweets. And I think it's to my mind, the $3 is worth it for me because of what I do for a living. It may not be worth it for you. Dashlane, I've already mentioned, is my password manager. If you don't already have one as a human person in 2024, you need to use one. I've been trying to convince my wife for the 10 years that we've been married. She still has one password for every part of her life, which is insanity. And then if you sort of, again, dip your feet into this, either Twitter or Cheer app provide you opportunities to sort of mine your data and figure out like what's working and what's not working. And then finally, if you write, I have found Speechify to be a pretty cool tool. And so let me just demonstrate what that looks like. And so let's say I wrote this. This is like a Google Doc. I can come in here and I can ask
Dr. Ram Dandiaya.
Let's actually start it here.
Positron emission tomography, PET, has limitations in the imaging of prostate
All right,
cancer.
let's say you don't like this dude's voice. John, just ain't your style. Let's go to the Gwyneth.
Welcome to Speechify. Speechify can read to you in the highest quality digital to the low metabolic activity of prostate cancer cells and the suboptimal performance of the most
You're going way
commonly
back.
used PET tracer, fluorine, fluorodeoxyglucose, FDG. FDG PET is not effective.
All right, so you get the idea. So you can have like, Gwyneth read to you or Snoop Dogg. He's actually pretty good at this. And if you're a writer and want to make sure that what you're writing sounds good, and for me, some of the writing that becomes critical, I will write something and then ask Snoop to read it to me. Usually not at 1.5 pace. And I have found it to be actually a pretty good tool. Again, there are free versions. I pay for it because I want Snoop and a few other things. Snoop doesn't come for free, right? Why would he? Okay, we're at the hour, and so I gotta make sure I stop because it's 9 o'clock.